Hey, welcome back to SJU again. Look, sometimes people don't plan breaking news around our show. I think that's a terrible mistake, but sometimes they don't. As soon as we got off the air, basically, Vanity Fair picked up the scoop. Ben Affleck's Batfleck is returning for the Flashpoint movie. I have with me to discuss two big super friends, Billy Business, Eric Goldman. Hello, gentlemen. This is ridiculous and crazy. So Vanity Fair just dropped this. We know that Ezra Miller's Flash movie is going to be a Flashpoint multiverse movie. But we didn't quite know the capital M that they were going to put on multiverse for this thing. So not only is Ben Affleck returning as the Batfleck, which I love. I really love grumpy CrossFit Batman, legitimately. Like, he's great. He was my favorite part of Justice League and BVS, so I'm stoked to have him back. I'm stoked that he's found a healthy way back in. We'll discuss that a little bit, too. But the story also confirms the Keaton return. Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne from Batman '89. Look, Billy just birthed a sibling for his new child. Gentlemen, how we feel?
I'm so excited, man. I said this before we went on the air, but we're just a couple days away now from the DC Fandom event, and I give them credit for trying the San Diego Comic-Con online thing, but it was just missing that energy, that big fight feel for the rest of the fans.
That Big Ben energy.
And now with like DC Fandom, like this is the kind of excitement that I've been like waiting for. And I know I kind of jumped the gun with the convention coming in a couple of days, but like this is like the big breaking stuff. I'm so excited for this movie. Batman Returns, my favorite Batman movie. Those first four Batman movies are just like, they're so special to me. They are above criticism, so shut your mouths. And I really enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman. I think like Greg Capullo, definitely when the New 52 launched, like he looks like Ben Affleck. I wasn't the biggest fan of his characterization so far, but I always thought, just like Cavill, like give him the right stuff, and there's hints of the right stuff, and I think like he could be all time. So even if he's only in this for a couple minutes, this is where DC can do something that Marvel can't. This whole time we're like, Marvel does the serial and they do this and that. This is what DC has done that Marvel hasn't, and I don't know if they can as well. They are acknowledging their entire history outside of the DCEU. It all counts. It all exists. That weird little Flash show in the 90s, the Michael Keaton movies, the 60s show. All of it is all encompassed. And honestly, I think that's kind of like the one thing DC's had in its back pocket the whole time is it never really licensed out its stuff to a bunch of different studios. So to acknowledge their history in this way just makes this Flash movie so exciting.
Yeah. Well, the director says, of course this is going to be firmly Barry's movie. Although, I mean, between
like Captain America Civil War is Cap's movie.
Yeah, I mean, between us girls, I don't care. Like, it's not Barry's movie to me, it's Michael Keaton's movie. So what he's saying is, obviously there's going to be this big entrance into the multiverse, but he said it wouldn't work well for the Flash to venture into the company of other Batmen without having Affleck as the starting point. And this is why I kind of appreciate the thought on story and character, because for Ezra Miller's Flash, the Batfleck is the baseline. He's part of that. He goes on to say he's part of that unaltered state before we jump into Barry's adventure. There's an important familiarity there. I absolutely dig that. We had no idea quite how they were going to pull the ripcord on the multiverse. The fandom giveth. Legit. I was so impressed by how the Arrowverse handled the multiverse with Crisis, with Ezra even showing up there.
Which was amazing, yeah.
And like you sort of said, Billy, like acknowledging that it all matters for DC because they've always had the idea of the multiverse in their back pocket. Or infinite universes, I think. Isn't multiverse actually a Marvel technically term?
I think they both can use that term, actually.
Okay, I don't want to get shouted at. And obviously Marvel has plenty of alternate universes. You know, they're numbered. You know, there's, I think, guidebooks you can find for universes 1 through 750. But I associate the term more with DC. So, you know, if the Arrowverse can do what they did, I'm stoked to see what they do on the big screen with this idea.
I mean, like, what are the odds that you would see, like, Jennifer Garner's Elektra show up in a multiverse in Marvel? Probably slim to none at this point.
Is very slim.
But honestly, like, if you had said even like a year ago that Michael Keaton would ever be in anything Batman related officially again, I would have been like, okay, maybe like a Lego Batman thing. But like, DC is just like, again, like, it's the double-edged sword of DC that I've been talking about for years. They never quite got a formula down like Marvel did, but maybe in the long run, that's kind of their saving grace, is that they've just been able to pull out all these crazy surprises, and you can have in the same calendar year, you can have like a Joker and, you know, an Aquaman or a Birds of Prey. Like, how do those two movies come from the same studio within like a year of each other, you know?
It's interesting to, you know, think about, if the alternate universe where Batman versus Superman, Suicide Squad, and Justice League had gotten like the kind of love that the Marvel movies get, things would be very different now, right? But once those got pretty mixed to negative reaction, they decided to be much looser and be like, oh, we're not really caring about interconnected stuff. So it seemed like the whole DCEU idea was going away. This is a really fun idea to kind of bring it back again. And I'm with you, Billy, as far as like, I thought Affleck was like doing a good job, even though I really did not like Batman versus Superman. But this is cool that he gets to come on. And what I'm guessing is probably going to be his one last appearance. But the fact that it doesn't end in a weird, even with the Snyder Cut happening, it still was going to end on a weird way with Justice League. And he didn't do the Batman movie he was supposed to do. He never did a solo movie. This seems like it does kind of get to put a pin on it if he gets to come back and make this one last appearance. Well, and who knows? Maybe he'll have a good time and be like, yeah, I'll do more. Yeah.
Well, we do have an interest. I love this point that got made in chat. Dave Palmer 41 says, Justice League imploding is the best thing to ever happen to the DCEU. It has officially liberated them to try new things. You know, I don't know necessarily if the Snyder cut of it all is what has pushed them to be like, you know what? Let's get nuts. But I think it's a really good point. I think, you know, if nothing else, the implosion of Justice League forced them to kind of go, okay, Joaquin Phoenix Joker over here, a Pattinson Batman over here, Aquaman and Shazam and Wonder Woman are connected somehow. We're not going to worry about it.
Right.
Doing it with their animated universe for years, where it's just like some of them connect to this larger story that actually just wrapped up with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. And then some of them are just like, hey, let's do Gotham by Gaslight. That would be fun. And it has nothing to do with anything. And it doesn't matter. As long as they're fun, you don't really care, you know?
I also think you're seeing the fact that now that we have had like 20 solid years of so much successful, hugely mainstream comic book adaptations, they feel that they can do this. Like, I think 20 years ago, if someone came to Warner Brothers and said, I have this idea for a DC movie, it's a multiverse thing, they'd be like, we don't understand what it is, and our audience sure won't understand what it is. But now you've had Into the Spider-Verse. You had the Arrowverse do the Crisis storyline. You've had all these ways you've been able to build up this thing where I think a person understands that concept who doesn't read comics in a way they probably never had before. So I feel like they've almost been able to like pilot program it. And so now they feel like, okay, now we can do this and people will get what we're doing. They'll feel that happiness seeing Keaton on screen and Affleck on screen. And I also think, by the way, it would at this point seem weird if Pattinson is not in this movie. I feel like he almost certainly will be, even if it's one little scene, because I feel like they'll want to do that acknowledgement of like, here's the current Batman we have.
Is this why Val's showing up this weekend? We were talking about it the other day. Is that why Kilmer's showing up?
So I did figure it out. I did figure there is a panel that's kind of like the history of Batman that I bet is the one Kilmer's on. But I also think that there's room for him to appear in this movie as well. Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out, and Gods of Warner Brothers. I'll do anything.
Not
Gods of War or Gods of Warner Brothers.
Gods of Warner Brothers. If they show the classic like Batman Forever suit from the back, and he takes off the cowl, and it's Chris O'Donnell, I will risk COVID to go to the theater for 1. I will poop in my seat for 2. And then I will buy it on digital DVD, Blu-ray, UK, UH4D, F5. I'll buy all of them. Just give me Chris O'Donnell back.
Yeah, I will. I will finally fold and watch a 3D movie at home with Hector. I will do all of those things.
I can't even see 3D because I'm blind in one eye. I'll buy the 3D. I'll come over and watch it.
Well, look, I'm horny for stuff like this. I love when different universes show up, when different properties meet that shouldn't have met. You know, like the Ninja Turtles did one a little while back. I haven't been attached to Ninja Turtles for a long time. I don't know most of the animated shows, but the weird Ninja Turtles multiverse they did was great. I loved it. Now I'm so excited. It's like, what if they connect this movie with the Arrowverse Flashpoint and they just do the Ezra Grant Gustin scene like as a part of this movie, and like Ezra's dealing with his crisis while Grant's dealing with his crisis, and there's infinite crisis on infinite crisis on infinite crisis, and they crisis stack. Like I love stuff like this.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, absolutely. Like, give me the nostalgia shorthand.
But that's the
popcorn
point,
event
Joe.
of a lifetime.
I think that's the point.
Me.
The fact that we are at a point now where it's like, it's not so crazy anymore to wish these things because they're starting to happen. And honestly, you said it earlier, Eric. I know it happened in other TV shows, specifically DC TV shows, but I don't think you can underestimate how much Into the Spider-Verse normalized this idea that the same hero can exist in different planes to the mainstream audience to accept it. I think if Into the Spider-Verse wasn't somewhat successful, stuff like this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a great way to build your franchises out, because at some point everything's going to fold under its own weight, right? Like, you can't do Miles yet in the MCU proper because Peter is still 12.
Right.
Like, unless he's going to retire real early before he gets his driver's license, you can't quite do Miles yet. And if you do, the purists will probably come for you, whatever. Like, it gets complicated, I guess, is my point. But the way DC's doing this is brilliant, because on the Marvel side, and obviously, yes, there's Sony and all those issues. Like, I think Spider-Verse is going to remain its own thing. I don't even as they beef up their own live action Spider-Verse, I don't think it's going to start connecting to this animated franchise. I really
have
don't.
A question for the two of you gents.
Yes.
I was just thinking about it. Now that Affleck is going to be back for this, do you think either in the Snyder Cut or this Flash movie, they'll finally retcon that scene from Batman v Superman that just sticks out like such a thumb of I'm too early? Do you think we might finally get some closure on that?
I bet in the Flash movie they can probably deal with that almost as a quick comical thing. But I bet you're right that they can.
In the cut, and I apologize. Please don't yell at me in the comments, because I aside from a general interest in seeing the Snyder Cut, like I don't know like what the frame by frame breakdown of it's supposed to be, but we're supposed to see, I think, more of that post-apocalypse hellscape.
I think at least more of the setup, because it was all set up for dark side stuff that I don't think we'll ever get. But I think there is a way for that Flash movie to still tie it in together.
This Flash movie is starting to feel like Days of Future Past, where it's like half of a movie and half of a board clearing, so you don't end everything on this weird where
here's the interesting thing to me is that in the case of this Days of Future Past, I care. I care. Maybe they're cheating. Maybe they're cheating to make me earn that care by just being like, I don't know, it's a bunch of unrelated stuff that you like. What do you want? But I'll take it. It's sugary cereal, but I'll eat it. Days of Future Past with the X-Men movies, I never knew any of them really, except for Logan.
I'm all in on Days of Future Past. I love it. I love First Class. Days of Future Past.
We're on opposite ends of the pole there.
But
I'm with you, Joe.
This ties back to childhood, so it's just it's different and it's amazing. I will say, I feel like we're gonna get some other announcements or reveals or funny, and I bet who knows? Like, they could, speaking of Days of Future Past, could they have like a Halle Berry appearance as her Catwoman or something funny like that?
I would scream.
Here's what I would say though.
It can do no wrong for me at this point.
After I just pitched my Chris O'Donnell, like, don't go too far into the Lego movie.
No, how dare you? Do it.
No.
Give me all the Catwomen.
Happy medium. I draw the line at Chris O'Donnell.
The two people I most expect though are Pattinson and again, this could be a tiny appearance, but Pattinson and Grant Gustin. I think that Ezra showing up on the TV show was amazing. I'm so glad they kept it a secret since pretty much all the other cameos leaked. And the fact that it would happen at all, like it just felt like a few years ago, there was no way the church and state of movies and TV would have let that happen. So first of all, it was a good sign that Warner Brothers was like, okay, we'll give you one of our bright and shiny movie Justice League members. But also it feels like you have to have Gustin now pop up in this movie, whether it be the same scene or not.
And what a smart possible way. And look, obviously this is one movie, and I'm losing my mind like it's the lay of the land now. But let me, okay? It's been a long 6 months. All of the Catwomen aside, give me Michelle Pfeiffer, give me Halle Berry, and Jujubee on RuPaul's Drag Race does a great Eartha Kitt impression if you just need the voiceover. Anyway, what a great pilot program for their TV stuff. You talk about even acknowledging, what if the response to Black Lightning showing up on the big screen is huge? Mm-hmm. What a great JV to varsity feeder is what I'm saying. I just think it's such a smart way to invest in your properties.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I will say, as an aside, because this is no doubt something that DC can do that Marvel will never be able to do, just because they have more there's more adaptations to pull from, and they own them all. But I will say, I do feel Hugh Jackman has not played Wolverine for the last time. Now that Marvel's now that they completely control X-Men, that is something in their back pocket. And there is because that is the one. Even though I will argue, I'll debate you guys someday about the X-Men movies in general. I think Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is their thing.
In a twist,
they can pull that in. In
a twist, after Logan died, someone revived young Logan, and then he lived a life until he was Hugh Jackman's current age. And
that's right. Someone posted this, I think on Twitter is where I'm seeing it, but the DC Twitter account has been posting a lot of GIFs of Batfleck in the past couple days. That's like an old WWE tactic. If you start to see articles popped up of an old superstar, last 10 moments you forgot, and then the next month they make a surprise returern,
Yeah. We're acknowledging this thing again.
Right.
And it's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Let's have one sort of dissenting opinion in here. I think it's a valid one. Let's talk about it, and then we can scream for a few more seconds, and then get out of here. How about that, boys?
Sounds good.
Derek Boyd said, so there's going to be a Spider-Verse, an MCU multiverse, and a DC multiverse going on all at the same time. None of it will feel original or unique. There's always that risk, right? I think the difference with DC, and, I might lose my Marvel checks that I definitely get for saying this, is DC feels like less of a factory product. And I don't necessarily mean that negatively. I don't mean that means MCU movies are bad. It's a great factory. It's a really good factory. But it's the same assembly line. I mean, it's a fantastic one, but they feel the same. DC stuff does not. I think there's creative gold to be mined, smashing Aquaman and Batman '89 together somehow. I want to see Michelle Pfeiffer's Selena Kyle hang out with Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I think there's something interesting there with the clash with the clash of feel and style that they've always been able to pull out.
Yeah, I think it all goes back to the quite tangible, literal history. Into the Spider-Verse had this great thing, that, again, a new idea for a lot of moviegoers of, Spider-Man from different dimensions. Mm-hmm. But it was all new versions it's a new animated versions.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton returning as Batman is something he actually played this character in 1989, and now he's returning. I mean, to me, by the way, it's no offense to Mr. Affleck, I'm a fan, but, Keaton coming back is the thing for me. But that's amazing, right? That they can do that. So that's what makes it feel different, is that they can actually connect to the past. I mean, obviously there's like there's the sad fact that Christopher Reeve is no longer with us. There's certain things you can't get around, but they still can do these touchstones.
Brandon Routh can come back.
Brandon Routh has already got to do it on Crisis. Yeah, he got to do it on Crisis, but you're right. He could also pop up in this sucker.
I'd be super into it. I think too, Spider-Verse isn't so much like a big multiverse project. It's about a multiverse, but I think Spider-Verse is very much its own thing. It's in its own lane. And I don't think it's going to be a big sprawling thing like, say, Marvel or Sony's Spider-Man movies are going to be. Jury's still out on the live-action Spider-Man movies and how all of that's going to feel. But sorry, Billy?
No, I was going to say that's kind of the point that I would make about them is that, yes, they're, it's all going to be similarly multiverse, but if they're all accomplishing something different, with Spider-Verse, like you said, I think it's about a multiverse. I don't think the multiverse, or it's set in a multiverse, but it's not about a multiverse. It's very much about characters and coming together and you're not alone. Whereas something like what I think DC is doing with the multiverse, which I don't think the MCU proper can do, like I said earlier, is their multiverse is almost like a recognition and a celebration of a history, not of a certain franchise or a certain period of time, but like now that they're including Keaton and all this stuff, it's like a history of like their superheroes and media, which is super cool. And I'm sure the MCU, if they go the multiverse route, will just be a way to introduce new characters in. So
Doctor Strange 2's title would suggest that what you're saying, Billy, that's what they want to set up next.
Right. So I just kind of feel like they'll all have this same tool of a multiverse, but it's about how you use it. And I think if DC uses theirs differently and is not just trying to create another, MCU, which it seems like that's not their game plan anymore. Now it's just like all bets are off and let's just celebrate these characters however the F we want to. Well, then I think it works.
It's interesting, too, that Crisis is typically used in the comics to set up a new status quo. And I think that's an interesting tool in the toolkit, too, depending on how you use it. Marvel's actors age out, contract out, and you lose those characters, at least for a while. And now they're sort of having to do a rebuild phase. I'm super pumped about Shang-Chi. Is he going to have the same impact as, by design, can the character of Shang-Chi, who is not like an A-list lead character for Marvel, have the same impact as the first time you saw Chris Evans as Captain America?
Right.
They're in a tough spot. It's going to be interesting. I mean, it's literally like when they introduced the Kooky Quartet in the Avengers comics, and they were like, "Hey, did you like Iron Man? You're going to love Hawkeye." Yes. But sorry, I'm rambling. But DC can hit you with a crisis and then start anew if they want. Here's your new Superman. Here's your new Batman. I think that's interesting, depending on
it's very interesting because that's why the Pattinson thing came coming up to me, because what the director said in the interview was he wanted, it's important to have Affleck because it sounds like, and we're guessing probably in a small role at the beginning, because that's Ezra's Flash, that's his Batman. But yes, if this movie has a literal reset where it can end with the Pattinson Batman now coexisting with Ezra Miller's Flash, and now they can not worry about having crossovers, going forward. Because right now it's like, oh, how do you do that if it's a younger Batman, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, they do have this kind of, we're just going to spin the wheel and reset. And it's on one hand, it's convenient, but on the other hand, it's a fun way to work with this issue.
Well, let's close out with this, boys. Are there any, now that they seem to be open to pretty much whatever, are there any characters from the DC library that you'd like to see show up on the big screen in a Flash Crisis movie, in a Flashpoint movie?
I mean, we're getting Keaton, but Batman Returns is my favorite Batman movie, and if they got Michelle Pfeiffer to play Selena Kyle again, that would be freaking fantastic. that would be my favorite. She was supposed to get her own spin-off movie in the mid to late 90s, never happened. So yeah, if we got Pfeiffer back, that would be another one where I would lose my ass over.
Billy?
I know she already showed up on Supergirl as a different character, but I think it'd be cool to have Linda Carter just have a nod to the to one of the more popular versions of that character in that time frame.
Well, did you see on Twitter someone cut together, or on YouTube, someone cut together like a retro Justice League movie trailer?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, I'll send it to you. It's actually great. But yeah, it's Carter and Keaton and Reeves and John Wesley Shipp.
My dream would have been Tom Welling, and then that dream turned into a nightmare. I got it, and I was like, oh, you still just hate being Superman.
It was just, but Linda Carter was sort of conspicuous by her absence in Crisis, because they had like pretty much every major TV incarnation that they could have a nod to, and then they even had movies ones. I mean, I was very excited to see Robert Wool as Knox from Batman '89 and Crisis, but it does feel like Linda Carter. Yeah, that would be a great one.
That would be.
What's the over/under on Bale ever making an appearance?
How have we not even thought about the Nolan ones?
And
Clooney, the chat is lighting up with Christian Bale.
Yeah, Bale. I mean, Bale, of course. Yeah, but Bale and Clooney would both be, for different reasons. They seem unlikely, but it would both be amazing.
I feel like Bale would do it before Clooney would. Honestly.
Brian, what's up?
Oh, I just wanted to, this kind of ties into what you guys are saying, but I'm interested in what this means for what other news we're going to get this weekend and for Fandom. Now, Eric, you might be able to correct me on this. This didn't seem like a leak thing.
No, this was I said that initially when I saw the headline. Then I read it. I go, oh yeah, this is a hype building. I'm still surprised they didn't save it. I wonder why. It's always that interesting question. Why did you decide 48 hours before to say this huge news versus doing it?
Ironically, guys, this dome has no ceiling. Like this dome clearly has no ceiling.
But here's the honest truth too, because they pre-taped all these, they might not have signed him until this week. And they couldn't have said it, for sure.
That's a good point.
So we'll see what they actually talk about during the Fandom panels versus what we're learning right now.
But it's reasonable. It would be reasonable to assume that this is just the appetizer, right? Or they wouldn't have buried their whole event.
They have to have major stuff to put this out. Yeah, you don't want to underwhelm.
Left?
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Left. This was it.
This is the ultimate plate of Jack Daniel's wings at a TGI Fridays. Like this,
This is like right before I get sick at Dave & Buster's. Like, I'm ready to go home. Take my keys. I'm out of tokens.
Well, look. I think purely business-wise, I think they saw sort of the frankly kind of real bad numbers for San Diego Comic-Con, the virtual attempt. And so I think if people are on the fence about spending their day watching the Fandom, I think all bets are off now. I think this is the thing that's going to pull people in.
That's a great point. Because, like I said, the very beginning of the show, just to close it out full circle for me, final thoughts, is, this definitely this is a weekend of the domes. We have Thunderdome with WWE. We have Fandom with DC. I'm all about it. This is the hype. This is the hype that I was missing from San Diego. If this is like a loss leader, for lack of a better term, to get people to tune in, I kind of think this weekend might be like something really big, and it makes me think like, will this change kind of how conventions run in the future? If they can get a big word of mouth for these big projects kind of online, like, will Hall H be like the destination anymore,
Oh, 100. I 100% agree with you. I think if this is even remotely a success done remotely, look, I don't know if you're aware of this. Warner Brothers has some space available, and if they're going to do a Fandom next year, fingers crossed if the world's normal yet, throw it in the backlot, man. Make the city backlot look like Gotham, and charge tickets and have people come to Burbank for the Fandom. I'm in. The dome got me, you guys. I'm one with the dome. I'm super excited about this. This is a hell of a way for them to prime for the weekend. This is really cool news.
And one last correction, Joe. I'm so sorry. I know you're doing the outro, but I just want to Chid pointed this out in the chat, and I was reading the article too. So the article does state that Affleck got the script last week and then decided to do it this week. So according to the Daily Fair report, that's the timeline, is that he just read the Flash script last week and he agreed to do it this week.
Those are some sick pages, man. I want to read
That's right.
It's probably like really, really short with a really, really large payday. Like, if I'm just being cynical, that's probably he got sent 2.5 pages.
Look, I don't think you're being cynical either. Let's end this on a positive note, because I think this is cool. Because right before we went live, Billy, you brought up sort of a dark quote that Ben Affleck commented on, as part of his decision to leave. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically, a friend was like, do you want to start drinking again? Like, do you want to go through what you went through with this again? And I think, fandom evolves, right? Especially when fandom evolves into a fandom. But if we're in a more positive place now, and he's in a more positive place now, and they figured out a way that he feels comfortable coming back and doesn't have to just deal with the horse crap of getting yelled at for being Batman, a time-honored tradition. If we've rightfully figured out a nice way to just like get rid of that crappy tradition, and he feels good about coming back, and sure, yeah, it's probably a huge payday. I think that's a positive.
Yeah, and also I meant to mention this way earlier, so I'm glad you just said that, Joe, which is Affleck has, like Snyder actually, both these guys have a huge history with Warner Brothers that predates Batman versus Superman by a lot.
Yeah.
Affleck's directed almost, I think, all his stuff for them. So clearly things went sour, but it also meant there was room for things to work out, some time to pass, and to be like, again, I do think he's probably looking at this as, a quick thing. Hopefully it's like a funny, poignant appearance. But also I think he probably at this point is like, hey, I go way back with you guys. Let's do this if we can work it out. And they did.
Yeah. Billy, any final thoughts?
Chris O'Donnell, baby. That's all I've got.
Chris O'Donnell, Nightwing. Yeah.
Bigger nipples than ever.
Oh yeah, make the nips just silver dollar size.
Yeah.
Just
A lot of time has passed.
It might not be the headline grabber, but someone who's been a vanguard and just a banner waver for DC for a long time now, that has loved every minute of it, is John Wesley Shipp, and I'd love to see him on the big screen. I'd love to see him be able to officially go out on the. I think he's earned it. He's been carrying the torch of positivity in DC for a long, long time, and that would be really cool to see. Boys, I think we've talked this into the ground. Batfleck's coming back. We're pretty excited. We're stoked to see everything that happens at Fandom, and then Monday we'll be back live on SJU to break it all down and give you guys a big ol' yelly recap. So we'll see you then. Bye.